Hi, I want to go over with you a sample student body paragraph. This is a student who wrote about the Instagram influencer article by Jenny Gritters. And I want to read first the introduction to you out loud, and then I'm going to go over what's strong about it and how it could be improved. And this should give you some more perspective on how to improve your own paper. Under the title, Being an Instagram Influencer, Is It the Job for You? I'm going to read the paragraph. It goes like this. The glamorous life of being an Instagram influencer is filled with free extended stays at luxury hotels, gifts from sponsors, flexibility with one's schedule, and financial security. It all sounds exciting, but at what cost? Being a social media influencer looks appealing, but the price of one's mental health may not outweigh the perks. Jenny Gritters from The Guardian wrote the article, How Instagram Takes a Toll on Influencers' Brains, in January of 2019. Her purpose is to shed light on how mentally damaging social media can be on people, mainly Instagram influencers. She argues that the pay and the gift influencers get isn't mentally profitable when it comes to the emotional cost of running a page. According to Gritters, being an Instagram influencer takes a major toll on one's psychological health. There is stress in keeping up the perfect image, getting that perfect shot, and satisfying sponsors, which leads to depression and anxiety. Some sources confirm her findings, but there are some that complicate that theory and show just how great it is to be an influencer. And so I think, in this paragraph, there's a lot of really great things happening. I can see the attempt at an engaging opener on the topic. There's a rhetorical question here to help us transition into introducing the concern that Jenny Gritters has. And I know this is the information we want to create, The Guardian and the title and when it was published. And I can see that the student is trying to make sure as an unfamiliar but educated reader, what her purpose is, what her main argument is, and which helps us get to the heart of the matter. And then the thesis answers to the prompts, the essay prompt, which is, to look at other sources and, kind of shed light on what this paper is going to be about. And I can see that the paper is going to cover outside sources that confirm Jenny Gritters' findings, but they also add some complication to it. So I know that this paper is going to examine all the ways in which it, confirms and complicates, which is great. So with that said, I spoke with a student this week and I advised her to consider her opener again. I said, the glamorous life of being an Instagram influencer is filled with free extended stay. Okay, where did you get this information from? Because you, as the student writer, did not know about all of this probably until you read Jenny Gritters' article and did a bunch of other research. So you can't take credit as the student writer for this information. You were influenced by it. So I think the number one one example of how to go through your revision in a productive manner is to comb through all of your sentences and consider where did I give credit to the author? Did I shed light on where I was influenced? There should be sort of this like before and after shot of what you knew before the research and then what you learned after. So if your introduction is the place where you want to start it, then great. You might even start with a sentence like, many people know what Instagram is and what it's used for, but not everybody realizes that influencers, have a lot of other perks, and then going into it and giving credit that, based on a lot of research, there's been a lot of complicated discoveries, or something. But we have to give credit to whatever information you got. If it didn't come up in your own head, like all on your own. So the student writer can't take credit for this. I have advised her to open it up in a different way because she already has, just like you all do, like you all have an understanding of what Instagram is and what social media can be used for. And everybody's already in this digital era of scrolling and noticing perfection in photos and all this stuff. And I think just like making sure you're outlining in the beginning like what the controversy is or what the concerns might be that we're not really thinking about yet. But being careful how we set that up, because if you don't give credit to the to where you got this thought, uh, that's a problem. And then just making sure we're spelling authors' names correctly. I think her name is spelled with an I at the end rather than a Y. I don't think we need January of 2019. All that information is going to be concretely given to us in the Works Cited page, but you could, allude to, if you wanted, since it was so recent, maybe you could keep January of 2019, but it's also okay to just say, Jenny Greers from The Guardian wrote the 2019 article, and that would be okay. And I think this could be a lot smoother rather than just, this is what we want to avoid with plugged in information. We don't want to say like, her purpose is to shed light on how mentally, like that's really wordy. I can read this and know that it's the purpose statement just if you're a little more subtle and you can say, she sheds light on, or she informs us how mentally damaging social media can be. That would be a better way to just make this more concise, a little bit smoother, a little bit less formulaic sounding, because good writing, even though this is an essay prompt driven, there's a prompt that drives this essay. I mean, we don't want to make it sound like we're just plugging in a bunch of information sentence by sentence, brick by brick, and none of it really flows well. So this is fine though, what she argues. And everything else is great here. I love how the thesis really gets to the heart of the matter. I think there's a lot of ways to do the thesis in response to the essay prompt, but this is a really good way to do it. So with that said, I think this is a solid intro, but that was just a few tips I wanted to give. And lastly, just to wrap up, if you're doing the other essay prompt, which is on traditional gender roles and caregiving, then you're going to want to spend quite a bit of time critically talking about why it still matters today, or what's going on with gender roles and relationships and old age and health concerns, and having an open conversation about, how many people, do many people even talk about this? Do you think many people would be concerned about the topic? And just opening there before we even introduce the author of the traditional gender roles article. So that way you're having a meaningful conversation about it. And then you can bring in your own ideas on how you feel about gender roles. Anything's up for grabs in the engaging opener, but usually we just try to talk about, like in the beginning, what makes it so relevant and what makes it so controversial. What do many people think and what do some people think, and set it up as like, well, here's the delicate controversy. People are always watchful how they talk about gender roles when it comes to who does the domestic duties and the house chores, and who takes care of who when they're sick, and who picks up the slack. So just making sure that you're meaningfully talking about it before you even introduce the article, because that's an area of critical thinking too that you want to show off. So I hope this is helpful, and thanks again for watching and listening.